This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, let's start today's session. So in this session, I'm going to discuss Introduction to SQL Server. Introduction to SQL Server. So SQL Server is the product of Microsoft, first of all. SQL Server is the product of Microsoft. It's completely designed and developed by Microsoft company. So SQL stands for structured, structured, structured query language. SQL stands for structured query language, or some people will call it as SQL Server. SQL Server. SQL Server means structured English query language. Structured English query language. So SQL stands for structured query language, or else we can call it as SQL Server. SQL Server means structured English query language. So query language means completely it's a query based language. It's not complete programming language. It's a query based language. That means you have to pass the commands or you have to pass the queries. Then that query we have to execute it and appropriate result you will get. So ultimately the SQL Server is used to design and develop database. Database purpose only we can use SQL Server. SQL Server is completely backend application. Backend application means generally when we interact with the front end like web pages or any login forms, registration forms. So users will give the details there, and as soon as when they click register button or login button, details will go and stored in its backend like database. So that database design purpose we use SQL Server. So first thing is, what is SQL Server? What is SQL Server? Is this programming language, or is this any database kind of things, or is this any testing kind of things? No. So if you want to know about this, what is SQL Server? If you want to get answer, just wait. I will discuss clearly what is SQL Server. First of all, in SQL Server, here what is database, you have to know that, because our main importance main target is to create and design database. So that's what you have to know about database. Database means what? Database is a collection of database is a information collection of information. Database is a collection of information, or else database is just to show the data. Database is just to show the data or represent the data. Represent represent the data. To represent the data or to show the data. For that we need one base, that is called database. Database is just to show the data or represent the data, or it's a collection of information. So why it's a collection of information? So there is small difference. Data is different, information is different. Data is different and information is different. Data is nothing but raw facts, raw facts, raw facts, or any user input, any user input. Data means raw facts or any user inputs. Any user inputs means what? User will enter any data. Any user input means this is, suppose I'm entering like this. This is what data. But is this meaningful? It's not meaningful. Okay, it's not a meaningful. So this is just a data, whatever we enter the input. So this is data. But what is information, sir? Processed data or organized data, organized data or meaningful data, meaningful data is called information. So it's not a meaningful, it's not processed data, it's not well organized form. So this is just data or raw facts. But information means after this processed data or organized data or meaningful data, then it will become information. So database is a collection of information. Yes, always in database, we should store meaningful information, meaningful data only. So that's what database is, a collection of information. It's not a collection of data. Okay. Yes. How in database, how collection of information will be stored? Information, information will be stored, information will be stored in database, will be stored in database in the form of, in the form of tables, in the form of tables. Information will be stored in database in the form of tables. Yes, complete in the form of tables only information can be stored. Okay, so this is just basic idea I'm giving. What is database, what is data, what is information, and information will be stored in the in database in the form of tables. Yes, what is tables are? Table consists rows and columns. Table consists what? Rows and columns. In SQL Server, in SQL Server, table is also called as, table is also called as entity. In SQL Server, table is also called as entity. Yes. Now, row is also called as, row is also called as record, record or tuple, record or tuple. Column is also called as, column is also called as field, field or attribute, field or attribute. So any name we can call it as field or attribute. Table is consist of rows and columns. In SQL Server, table is also called as entity. Row is also called as record or tuple. Column is also called as field or attribute. Okay, so compulsory any information if you want to store in database, compulsory we should store in the table. To store the information, you should have the table compulsory. You should have the table compulsory. The table creation is very important. So table consists rows and columns. Row you can also called as record and column is also called as field. Sir, what are the rules and regulations to create tables? Rules, rules to create a table, rules to create table. So rule number one, rule number one, to create a table, to create a table, to create table, at least, at least one column, one column is required, sir. Without column, no table. To create table, at least one column is required. One column is required. Column means what? ID, name, address, salary. These are all what? Columns. Columns we can say that. Columns. At least one column is required. At least one column is required. But maximum of columns, maximum of columns in table. A table can have maximum. Table can have maximum columns. How many maximum columns table can contain? 1024 columns. Like ID, name, address, salary. Here, how many columns are there? 4 columns are there. Like this, you can keep on creating columns. Like in one table, will have maximum 1024 columns will allow. More than 1024 columns will not allow. Table can have maximum columns 1024. But there is no restriction on rows. So how many rows need to be required in one table? No matter how many records you have, thousands, lakhs, any records, any number of records you can use. No restriction of rows, no restriction of records, but only column values, column headings. That restriction is there. To create table, at least one column is required, and maximum columns 1024 will allow one table. These are the rules number one. Next rule number two. In SQL Server, in SQL Server, table name or table name or column name, column name, column name should not starts with a digit. Table name or column name should not starts with a digit. Okay. Next, another thing is table name or column name, column name should not be two parts. Should not be two parts. Table name or column name should not be two parts, sir. Suppose example is what, sir? EMP details. It's my table name. It's my table name. It's wrong. It's wrong. Wrong syntax it is. Okay. Example. So EMP underscore details. This is what? Right. This is right format. Right thing is emp underscore details, because if you want to maintain two parts, table name or column name, you should use underscore. This is right and this is wrong. So table name or column name should not be two parts. Table name or column name should not start with a digit. Table can have maximum 1024 columns, and to create table at least to one column is required. Without column we can't create any table, you know that. So rows restriction not there. Any number of records, if you want, you can insert that many number of records. So that is possible here. Okay. So this is just basic introduction of SQL Server. Just wait. And now you can see, I want to give some answer here. So what is SQL Server? What is SQL Server? So what is SQL Server means? Before going to discuss what is SQL Server, I have to give clear information first. Generally, how many types of databases are there in general case? There are three different types of databases are there in general case. In general case, three different databases are there. What kind of databases are there? Are three different databases. Now I will tell you what is SQL Server. The reason is what, in the sense I will tell you. Just wait. So generally three types of, in general, in general, in general, in general, three types of databases are there. Three types of databases are there. So what are the three types of databases? One is local databases. Local database means, example is what? MS Access, DBase, Fox Pro. These are the local database. Next type of database is remote databases. Remote databases. Remote databases are SQL Server, Oracle, remote databases. Next, or internet, online or internet databases. Online or internet databases. Online or internet databases are nothing but OLAP. OLAP stands for online analytical processing. Online analytical processing. Next one is OLTP. OLTP stands for online transaction processing. Online transaction processing, that is OLTP, we can say that. So these are the three types of databases are there generally. Local databases, that is MS Access, DBase, Foxpro. Remote databases, SQL Server, Oracle. Online or internet databases, OLAP, OLTP. To manage, see here, to manage, to manage, to manage any type of database, we need a software. To manage any type of database, we need a software, that is DBMS. DBMS, it stands for Database Management System. DBMS, it stands for Database Management System. To manage any type of database, we need one software compulsory, that is DBMS. That means Database Management System is compulsory. Okay. Next, to manage to manage to manage local database, to manage local databases, we need we need we need DBMS software. We need DBMS. To manage remote databases, to manage remote databases, we need RDBMS. We need RDBMS. RDBMS. That means relational database management system. Relational database management system. This is to manage remote databases. We need RDBMS, that is relational database management system. Next, to manage online databases, we need ORDBMS, ORDBMS. That means object object relational database management system, like DBMS, database management system, DBMS, object relational database management system. So to manage local databases, to manage local databases, we use DBMS software. To manage remote databases, we need RDBMS, that is relational database management system. To manage online databases, we need ORDBMS, that is object relational database management system. Observe carefully. Remote database means client is some location, server is some location, both they can interact. Okay. Online databases means these databases are present in online only. While doing transaction, it will collect the data from online. Local databases means it's locally present in our computer, MS Access, DBase, FoxPro. It cannot work with remote area. That means some other location server and some other location client, they cannot interact. Only database should present in our machine, and also application should present in our machine. Then we can go for local databases. But we are talking now what? SQL Server. SQL Server is what type of database? Remote kind of database. Then what is SQL Server means? SQL Server is, what is SQL Server means? What is SQL Server? So SQL Server is a relational database management system. SQL Server is a relational database management system, which is used to manage and access the data from database. This is what is SQL Server. What is SQL Server means? SQL Server is a relational database management system which is used to manage and access the data from database. Without SQL Server, we cannot manage and we cannot access data from database. So this is what we are doing. So our complete SQL Server is relational database management system. Whatever we are going to discuss, the topics that all completely related to RDBMS kind of things. RDBMS kind of things. Now next, if you want to, uh, yes, why SQL Server? Why SQL Server? Why SQL Server means? Why SQL Server? SQL Server is used to create or design, design databases, 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 which are which are used to store which are used to store which are used to store information, which is used to store information. This is complete what is SQL Server, why SQL Server. Okay. Next, sir, if I want to start creating database and design database, what thing need to do? Yes, we need to install software. Okay, we need to install software to work with to work with to work with SQL SQL Server SQL Server SQL Server. We use a software. We use a software. We use a software that is SQL Server. SQL Server 2014 or 2016. Any versions you can use. To work with SQL Server, we use software SQL Server 2014. When we install SQL Server 2014 software, when we install SQL Server, when we install SQL Server 2014 software, we will get, we will get, we will get SSMS. It stands for SQL Server Management, SQL Server Management Studio, SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, when we install SQL Server 2014 software, we will get what? SSMS. SSMS stands for SQL Server Management Studio. SSMS is not a database server, sir. SSMS is not a database server. Okay, it is just a client tool. It is just a client tool It is just a client tool. It's not a database server. It is just a client tool or editor tool. We can say better editor tool. Editor tool means what? Editor tool is a software which is used to write SQL queries. Okay, SSMS SSMS is editor. SSMS is editor which is used to write commands or queries. Commands or queries. Whatever you want to write the queries and commands, you can write in SSMS editor tool only. So actually in our computer already I installed SQL Server 2014 software so that SQL Server Management Studio is available. That is SSMS. It's not a database server. It is just client tool or editor tool. SSMS is editor which is used to write commands or queries using that platform. For example, you are going to write C program. What editor tool we can use? Turbo C, okay, or Notepad, or Java people will use Edit Plus. Some editors, every programming language people will choose some editors. On that editor only, they will write the code and they will execute the code. So here also one platform is required for writing our SQL Server commands or queries. That platform is nothing but SQL Server Management Studio. SQL Server Management Studio. Yes. So whenever we install SQL Server Management Studio, by default, some types of services will be there. Types of services. What kind of services will be there in SQL Server? Yes, there are mainly when we install SQL Server software, mainly five types of services will be available. First service is database engine. First service is what? Database engine. Second service is analysis service. Analysis service. Analysis service. Next one is reporting service. Reporting service. Fourth one is integration service. Integration service. Integration service. Fifth one is SQL Server. SQL Server Compact Edition. Compact Edition, or this is also called as what's sir? Mobile Edition. Mobile Edition. SQL Server Compact Edition or Mobile Edition. These are the five types of services are available whenever we install SQL Server software for the first time. So each and every type of service is having separate rules and regulations. So our service is always database engine only. Database engine is used to manage and access the data from database. Now analysis service is used to analyze the data. Yes, those who wants to work with data warehousing, that people will use this analysis service. This service can be used for data warehousing concepts. Can be used for data warehousing concepts purpose only. This service can be used. This service can be used for data warehousing concepts. Analysis service. So reporting service, when do we use? Yes, suppose already we create databases and we have some information on database in the form of tables. From that, if you want to generate some report, then reporting service can be used. This service can be used to generate reports to generate reports from database. If you want to generate any reports, then this service can be used. Actually, reporting service can be used to generate reports from database. Next, integration service means what? This service can be used to convert from one relational database to another. Okay, it can be used it can be used it can be used to convert from one relational database tables to from one relational database tables to one relational database tables to another. This is what integration service. It can be used to convert from one relational database tables to another. For example, already we have SQL Server tables, but as per your project, the table completely convert into Oracle format, then we can able to do that conversion. It can be used to convert from one relational database to another relational database table. SQL Server Compact Edition or Mobile Edition. This service is exclusively for what purpose? Those who want to generate mobile application development, then that purpose we can use. It can be used. It can be used. It can be used for mobile application development. Application. Mobile application development purpose we can use mobile application development purpose we can use SQL Server Compact Edition. First time when we install SQL Server software, so these are the services will come here. So this is about just basic introduction. Now let's try to interact with SQL Server, how I should open after completion of a software installation. So as I told you that when we install software for the first time, if you want to interact, then where we have to go, directly go to search option and type SQL. Whenever we type SQL in your computer, it will be located like SQL Server 2014 Management Studio. It stands for, it is nothing but like SSMS only. Whenever I click on this, automatically it will be open. So you have to follow some credentials to connect with this. Once if you connect, then you can able to write the commands and all. Now you can see like this, it will be open Microsoft SQL Server 2014. Here server type, you can just expand the server type. So by default, a database engine is there, analysis service is there, reporting service and integration service. And one service wantedly I didn't install, that is SQL Server Compact Edition. But our always is, this is completely SQL Server developer role. That's what I'm talking about, completely SQL Server development, not for SQL Server database administration. So here this service can be used for us, that is database engine. And what is server name? Server name can be of any name actually. By default, one name will come, like that is your computer name, or else you can give dot server here. Dot is the server name I'm using. Always I'm using dot server. Dot is commonly used server name, so it's relevant to any other things. Okay, but otherwise you can. Some people will get the computer name here as a server name. So whatever your computer name, like PC hyphen some name, that also it can be used as a server name, but better to use dot dot. But now you can see when it comes to authentication, there are two types of authentications are there. One is Windows authentication, next one is SQL Server authentication. But here you can see Windows authentication mode, SQL Server authentication mode. Two authentications are there. What authentication we should choose as per your what we can say requirement? Windows authentication, if we go, username and password is not required. When it comes to server authentication, user login ID, password must be required. Sir, from where I should get this login ID and password? Yes, that's what I'm telling. At the time of installation only, it will ask, do you want to install this software in mixed mode authentication or Windows authentication? If you choose mixed mode authentication, means they'll ask at the time of installation password. What password, what name, user login name if we give there while installation time, then whenever we choose server authentication, same user ID and password you have to select it. And if you want to go with Windows authentication, directly you can select Windows authentication, no need to give username and password, then automatically it will be connect. You just click on connect. If your credentials are correct, then it will be enter into SSMS software. As soon as when we enter the SSMS software, automatically this object explorer will come. So if you don't find object explorer also, no matter. For example, some people will not get any object explorer from left hand corner side. So in this editor window, there is a view option clearly, and you can see this object explorer is available. Click on it, again it will come. So object explorer is very important window which is used to manage your databases, delete or drop databases, create databases, anything you can do with object explorer. This is the way for the first time to enter into SQL Server Management Studio. This is SSMS, it's an editor tool. Sir, you may get, sir, where we should type the code here, where I should write my commands. So you can see this, to write the commands, you just click on new query window, Here, as soon as when we click on new query option, some editor will be open, some text editor it is completely. Here you can type the command and execute here. Whatever you just write the query and select that command and execute here, that will be execute. Command complete successfully done. Once command complete successfully execute, then your output will come and result table creation and everything we can do that. So later we'll come across that one. But this is one way to enter into SQL Server Management Studio after successful installation. But next way is also there. Next way is what? So go to run. After installation of software, you should go to run menu. Then here in this run menu, what I have to type? SSMS, only SSMS. SSMS stands for what? SQL Server Management Studio. This is SSMS software. Then you just click on OK. Then automatically it can be prompted to SQL Server Management Studio clearly. It can be prompted to SQL Server Management Studio. Again, you have to follow same rules and regulations and click on connect. Automatically it will be connect. So this is what both the ways we can connect with SQL Server window. Once if we connect SQL Server window, I told clearly. So click on new query window. Automatically you can type anything here. Whatever you want to type, you can type meaningful statement and select that command and execute. Select that command and execute. For example, so I want to show one command today. I'm not going to show any creation database and all. Tomorrow I'll show clearly, but just I want to show you something. Suppose if you want to get any table information, so we have to write a command like this: select star from emp details. Emp details tables already there, just that's what I'm showing. Emp details, and select this command, click on execute, or else from your keyboard you can press F5. Then it will become the details like this. Table information is coming clearly. This is completely table information. This table creation, how it is possible? Through command, through design. Database creation, how it is possible? Through command, through design. Everything in detail I'll discuss from tomorrow onwards. So this is just a basic introduction and demo purpose I took. So from tomorrow onwards, our regular session will be continued and daily 1 hour session I will take. Okay.